Scott Bass, waterwaystravel.com recently sent me a proposal just
Oh,
today.
really? Oh
Yeah.
my. Okay.
Well, remember we had filled up El Salvador so quickly that we discussed potentially doing Chicama in autumn 2024?
Yeah.
Proposal came through.
Wow. That sounds incredible.
You originally said you didn't want to go because you got to wear booties.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts now? Are you interested? I mean, we could fill up the trip even if you don't go, but are you interested in going?
Of course I'm interested.
That's the answer.
Yes.
Looks like you could foil that thing.
I've seen people foiling it. It looks insane.
Yep.
So that's cool. Waterways, man. Look, David, I've always said use the experts and waterways travel. They are the experts in surf travel. All your accommodations, all your questions answered, all your little we all, when we travel, we have these little, oh, where do I go here? How do I get that? What should I eat? What should I bring? Blah, blah, blah. Waterways, they've got
Yeah.
you covered, man. They have all the answers to all the little questions.
You're already going to be making decisions along the way. So leave the big decisions to them. Make sure that you just get put into uh, plush accommodations, 3 meals a day, and have access to waves. They'll handle all of that stuff. I'll follow up with Chicama for listeners in the next 2 weeks. I need to clear the dates with my wife before I start sharing all this information
Yeah.
publicly.
I
Um,
actually do have some issues. The boardroom's October 12th and 13th.
oh, yeah. Okay. Let's cover well, they said the dates are a little bit flexible, so we could adjust it to a week that works in that area, that time of year. And then costs for 17 people or 18 people, I think it's around 1,800 bucks plus airfare, just to give people a ballpark so they can kind of start thinking about it. So we'll follow up with that. But for wherever you want to go in the world, any time of year, any level of luxury, any level of surfing prowess, go to waterwaystravel.com. They will get you dialed in. You can travel intelligently. And then, of course, realwatersports.com. Whether you're going on a trip or not, they have all of your water sport needs. They'll sell you board bags, soft goods, hard goods, anything you need is available at Real Water Sports.
And I think, right, they still have the used gear sale going on, 70% off of used gear. And there's some killer, I'm so close to pushing the button on some used gear. So yeah, realwatersports.com. Go check out their used gear sale and really brand new gear. Heck, good
You know
stuff.
what? I want to say, don't do it, Scott. Don't over, you got plenty of things, but
I
the
know.
reality is it's 70% off. Can you afford not to do it?
Man, you only live once. I mean, how much time do I got left? Really?
True.
Might
True.
as well
Not,
get some more boards.
I don't want to predict how much time you have left
Yeah.
because it's not going to sound good no matter what I say. But anyways, go to realwatersports.com while you can.
As we see some movement at the takeoff zone, it's Kelly Slater grabbing rail.
Well, look, yeah, guy. You know what I'm saying? I'm saying, yeah, guy. I'm saying, no matter how much time we have left here on this wonderful planet, it's been great. And it continues to be great. And this is Spit. We're talking all things surf. David Lee Scales, Scott Bass with you here. And it's Wednesday, March 6th. And this year is already flying by. And
No joke.
man, there's a lot going on in the surf world too. Of note, the WCT event started today in Portugal. And of course, Stab in the Dark with Kolohe. We have that final episode of that. And probably some other things that you've got on the docket here that I don't know about.
World Surfing Games wrapped up. That's
Oh
the other
yeah.
big kind of competitive news. And I've also got a new surfboard, Scott.
You
I
got a
picked it up
haircut.
today.
You got a
Oh,
new board? You got
Scott
a
did get a new
Simon?
haircut.
Yeah, I
I
did.
couldn't see that haircut because you had a hat on, but I'm gonna move the mic away and grab the board just to show you the visuals.
Okay, let's see this thing. I'm excited for you. Oh, yeah. Wow. Look at you, bros. I still can't see the tail.
Little
Okay, now
diamond
it's,
tail,
yeah, I kind of,
ASIM.
yeah. Wow, that
Sorry,
looks,
the
oh,
camera's really
that's
close.
that's the I like the rail thickness view you gave me because that's what's important to me. How thick is this thing? What's
Look at that
going
little
on up there, man? There's some mojo going on in that
freak,
nose.
freaky little mojo on the nose.
Yeah.
You asked me for the dims last week. We're looking at 6'3" by 19 and 5/8 by 2.5.
Perfect. Good for you, brother. That's cool. You're excited. I'm gonna have a new board for El Sal too. I'm just not sure if I'm gonna bring it or not. I mean, you look, we got to ride these boards before we take them to El Salvador, right?
Yeah. Look at that little nose doodle, by the way.
Doodling, dude. I've talked to Bird about doodling. I was down
Did
at
you?
Bird's Surf Shed and I was like, David and I were talking about doodling. We're trying to figure out who was the first doodler. And we have Lopez nailed at 1968 when he was 20 years old. He was doodling on one of the first boards he ever made. And Bird thinks that that might be the first doodle. Like
Yeah.
he couldn't peg Fry for doodling prior to that. And really what is a doodle? Like we need to sort of define it,
Yeah.
because
Well,
Fry apparently has this template that he uses to draw on the wings. I thought he freehanded it, but he has a template that he uses. And I'm not sure if that's a doodle, but doodling is like what you just showed from John Simon or what Steve List does when he makes these little, doodling is like, you could almost put music to it. Like, I'm going to doodle some stuff here. And yeah.
so doodling is not their name, and doodling is not the dimensions, and doodling is not a logo.
Okay, perfect.
Because I think a doodle has to be one off, maybe not one off. Maybe they do a variation on a doodle every time, but it shouldn't be standardized, I guess, is what I'm saying.
Oh, that's interesting. There's a lot of the list doodles that I've seen from early lists are just full doodles, and then they evolved into his logo, basically.
Yeah.
I think,
Well,
I can't speak for Stevie, but
and that's kind of what I'm talking about is like
little
freehanding.
notes. Like I've had some lists in
Yes.
my auction that literally are like, like love you, honey, and like little, and just little things you can tell are very personalized.
Yeah. Yeah, that's when we were talking about doodling last week. It was in reference to Jerry Lopez writing words on that board that he's not written on any other boards. Basically, like he wrote the word love and a curse word or something like that.
Yeah.
And so when I said doodle, I meant exactly that, which was like in the moment you're building this board, you have thoughts about the board or whatever's going on in your world, and that's what you're representing when you're writing. And then people started chiming in and saying, oh, well, the Hawaiians wrote blah 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 on surfboards. And it's like, no, that's different. I'm talking just like creative expression, bespoke doodle for a given surfboard. And we talked about Wayne Rich. Wayne's follows a certain aesthetic, but there's variation amongst them. So I think
Yeah.
that still qualifies as a doodle.
Yeah.
I just
Yeah.
want the inner workings of their brain is what I'm really looking for.
And Wayne's are messages, right? Like most, I mean, does a doodle only qualify as a doodle if it doesn't have letters in it?
I think it can have text.
Can't have text. Okay. Especially if it's artistic text, right?
Like I said, a peek into their brain in that moment is kind of what I want to get from the doodle.
Okay. A peek into the brain. Gotcha. Duly noted.
Okay. Well, you said you're going to have a new board for El Sal.
Yes. I
What
should have
did you
two new
order?
boards. Well,
What did you order?
I've got a 511 Twinser from Ryan Sakel. That's kind of like the fish that he made me, but we decided to turn it into a Twinser
Okay.
because I got Twinser on the brain. And then I have a new Twinser from Stu Kenshin, a 6.6. And both the boards are in the they're at the top of the list for Indo this year. Um, and specifically for El Salvador, I think the smaller 511 is in the cards. But of course, we got to put these things through a couple of laps here
Yeah.
at the beach breaks around Southern California to get a sense for what they do.
Yeah. Well, I would love to. I've got fins coming from NVS and they're not here yet. So nothing worse than getting a brand new board and not being able to ride it.
That doesn't sound like you. I know you have fins. Just put some friggin' fins in the thing.
Yeah, but it's asymmetrical and it's a quad.
So what? I don't care. but Finland, go surf.
Okay. Okay. Well,
Yeah.
they're coming in the next week or two,
All right.
so
All right.
it'll be in time for our trip. We're going on April 6th. By the way, I secured a filmer today, an official filmer for the trip, so we can all start discussing with him the idea of the every man, dude, where's my board, surfboard test.
Right. Every man in the dark. Is that what we're calling it? I like that
Something.
name. I like every man in the dark.
Yeah. So it's all coming together in the final weeks here.
Okay, well, cool. Thank you for doing that. Let me know how I can help offline and I'll do whatever I can.
Okay, cool. Will do. Cannot wait,
Look,
by the way.
what's that?
Cannot wait, by the way, to go to El Salvador.
I know. In fact, is it too late to look? The South Pacific's firing up. The Southern Hemisphere's there's legit south swell in the water. That's going to be here next week. So that's good news, right? We got early season south swell. And really, frankly, El Salvador in April is the best month as far as the weather. It can still be have like a kind of a fall vibe, like a wintry, like it's still offshore. And I've been down there in April and it's not like in July where it's like steamy and friggin' summery. And so anyway, yeah, looking forward to that.
I just, I'm ready to check out. You know what I mean? Like, even if we go somewhere for the weekend, I'm still kind of busy.
Yeah. It's funny you say that.
I'm looking forward to being just gone for multiple days, fully checked out. I have not done that in a very long time. And even if I'm surfing here locally, it's like I carry anxiety with me. I'm just like, what is this taking the place of that I should be doing? And by the time I get back to the car, there's a bunch of emails and missed calls, and it's like, shed all of that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I actually picked up my wife from a trip she took to Mexico, and I picked her up yesterday and we were talking about that. Like, yeah, you can go on like a weekend thing, up to Santa Barbara, but you're still in California and you're still have life surrounding you. But she got to go and just like check out in a spa and do the resort thing and not, and that's important,
Dude, totally. But the caveat there is I don't want to be lethargic. Like that's only fun for me for 24 hours. I need to be surfing. I need to be doing some sort of physical activity. So this trip is the best of both worlds. Cannot wait. And by the way, shout out and thanks to waterwaystravel.com for making it all happen.
Yeah, it's going to be it's going to be an adventure. Let's just say that.
Can't wait. Okay, well, we have final episode, Stab in the Dark. We have Portugal. We have World of Surfing Games. Where do we begin?
I think we should begin with Portugal. The WCT, it started today at Super Tubos. It was rather uneventful. I guess they have a horrible waiting period they're looking at. The waves aren't looking too good, at least for the next, 4 or 5 or 6 days. There's a bit of a low pressure system moving through, lots of wind blown out. The big news, I think, from Portugal is Kelly Slater not being in the event. And he wrote I think on an Instagram, or he sent an email or sent something. It basically says, and I quote, "Still dealing with hip recovery and still in pain with basic mobility. Thanks for the messages from the Portuguese fans and apologies. I won't be seeing you in Super Tubos. Hoping to feel better for bells." And in parentheses, David, he wrote, "The first event I surfed as a full-time tour surfer in 1992. Fingers crossed at WSL, score some good waves in Portugal, and good luck to everyone." So what are you reading between the lines?
Well, leave it to Kelly to keep us guessing. Does that reference to the start of his career mean this is where he will end his career and possibly go out and retire at Bells? I'm not waiting with bated breath. I mean, I don't know. I do believe like he probably did. The hip thing is still nagging, and Portugal, you have to do turns. You have to get your hip swivel on. It's not an easy wave to surf. I feel like in addition to that, he's probably knows he's not going to win that event anyway. So it's a lot of travel for an event that he's probably, and the forecast isn't great. So you're sitting around a ton. And so it's just a lot of wear and tear on your hip. So, why risk it? Stay in Hawaii, get some good waves, focus on the Australian leg of the tour. So I don't know, but the whole question around the retirement, I'm almost exhausted of discussing because I've been discussing it for a decade. So will he retire there? probably not. I mean, he might. And then if Chopu is pumping, he's going to take a wild card and he'll be back there. So it's not as if we're never going to see him again, even if he does announce a retirement. So that's how I feel
Yeah,
about
I
it.
don't sense that at this point that there's going to be a retirement tour, so to speak, or you know what I mean? Like a year where he visits all the places that he has had success around the world and everyone pays him accolades and we all bow down and wish him the best and have a great retirement. Here's a gold watch. I don't think that tour is going to happen. Um, I could be wrong because I think in a perfect world, I think Kelly would like that to happen. And frankly, I think he deserves that. And I think the fans would enjoy that too. But there's too many of these wild card situations where he's just going to be picking and choosing and he's not going to ever really leave. He's never leaving. He's never leaving the
That's,
professional world.
and that's, to be honest, that's how I feel about it too. It's like, I'm trying to muster emotion about him maybe retiring, but I don't have any emotion about it because of exactly what you said. I know he's not going away. I know I'm always going to have access to him. You know, if it was somebody like when Carissa Moore pulled the plug, it was like kind of out of left field. She's still at the top of her game. And knowing that she's not going to be competing in wildcard events, even, it was like, oh my gosh, that's significant. Somebody is walking away. Kelly's not walking away. Kelly's always going to be here.
And at the risk of putting a jinx on it, we spoke about this either last week or the week before. And I saw it on Stab. I thought it was great. They have hashtag Jordy's year. And I watched Jordy's heat specifically before I even saw the hashtag because I'm like, Jordy's kind of, isn't Jordy like in second place or something? I think he's in second place or
Wow.
something. Like he's in the top five for sure. And Jordy looked super buttery and smooth. The board he was riding looked great. He looked so relaxed and ripping in shitty, crappy ways where normally he may have checked out. He may have just went, oh God, really? Come on. This is my 20th year on tour and I'm surfing 3-foot beach break blown out crap. He
Right.
didn't have that mojo. His mojo was positive and his surfing was sparky and he looked and he dominated his heat from what I saw. And so again, at the risk of jinxing it, I'm secretly hoping Jordy wins the whole thing. Like I would be psyched on that, you know? And boy, what a great time to drop the mic at lowers. Just boom.
Yeah, I'm here for it. I'm a huge fan. I mentioned his Hawaii, prowess. I would not expect him to do great in Portugal, especially with the conditions being mediocre. So him holding the fire and tenacity is fantastic. And like I said, he's won at lowers. If he can make it into the top five, he can win lowers. And I mean, especially in a year when Felipe is out, this is his chance to take lowers. So I think when you look at Ethan Ewing's rail game, Jordy is right there with him. When you look at air game from any of those guys, Jordy's right there with him. I think he's actually a little bit more dynamic with the power and the comboing it up with airs than almost anybody on tour when he's really on. I just feel like he hasn't really fully been on for a few years now, but he's proving that he still has it. He's lighter than he's ever been. So he looks actually spry.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of other power surfers on tour because there's been years past where you're like, oh yeah, well, Jordy's a power surfer, but there's also,
Wade Carmichael,
yeah, or ginger tall Australian guy, Bede Durbridge or whatever, like,
William Cardoso.
yeah, but the thing is that Jordy does it with a style that's a real panache. Um, but there are still, and so there's younger guys like Crosby, Colapinto. There's younger guys that have tons of power. So, but when you think about the tour in general, you think of sprightly little guys ripping around, little Kyle belly ripping and shredding, and you don't think about super awesome power gouge with air game,
Yeah, exactly.
and Jordy's the guy that comes to mind. And look, let's tell the listeners the truth. I want to say 3 or 4 years ago, you and I were both writing off Jordy Smith. Like, please don't even come back on tour. Like we were
Yeah,
kind of over it.
yeah.
but I'm super excited for watching this level of Jordy. He looks, I urge you to watch his heat today and you'll be like, yeah, this is pretty sparky, man.
Interestingly, he's also the oldest guy in the draw without Kelly Slater on tour.
Damn, that doesn't surprise me, does it?
I guess not. No, it doesn't. But the surprising thing about this event so far is that in the elimination round, we have Kanoa Igarashi, Griffin Colapinto, and Gabriel Medina.
Yeah, I saw that. And, you know, Gabe and Griffin are the ones where it's like, okay, you know, let's, you know, those guys are going to smoke through that round. That round's stupid. Anyway, I hate that round. The whole
Mm.
thing's stupid. But
Yeah.
anyway, I mean, are you worried about any of those guys getting out of that? No, I'm not.
Look, when the waves are as crappy as they are,
Yeah.
it really, there's a huge variable there that even the Gabriel Medinas in the world aren't immune to.
Yeah.
They can fall victim to. And that is kind of the story here is we say at every event, you say it all the time, the waves are the stars. And that is extra apparent in Hawaii when it's thrilling to watch. It's because of the waves, but then it's also very apparent in this event here where it starts last night. I turn it on and I turn it immediately off. Then I wake up this morning and I'm like, I'm going to scroll Instagram. They'll have the highlights. Instagram doesn't even post any videos of the event because there are no highlights. You know what I mean? So then I go to the WSL site and I kind of try to watch what's what. And it's just, even there, I'm not interested. So there's really no draw to watch the event, essentially, if the waves aren't pumping.
Yeah. Sorry, I'm trying to look at my survival pick because last time I told you that
Oh,
I wasn't in survival, that I had lost, but I made a mistake. I
oh,
actually
really?
survived. I thought I had picked Leonardo, but I had picked Yaga.
Mm.
And so, in an effort to continue to promote the Survival League for our friend, is it Taylor or Tyler?
Taylor.
Taylor. I want people to know that I have a pick, but I can't even remember who I picked.
Well, you couldn't remember. You thought you lost the previous event. This is an ongoing problem. I
Well, it's okay. I'm sorry. Go ahead. What were
Well,
you gonna
that's
say?
actually, you know what? I should be playing along, even though I lost. I should at least tell you who my pick would have been, because I did make that spreadsheet. But there's going to be dead air if I try to do that. I
Yeah,
think
sorry. I got some dead air going too.
I think Italo was my projected pick, just because he's won there in the past and he's super versatile in a wave that requires versatility.
I don't even know who I picked. Forget it. I might have
You're
picked like
crazy.
Matthew McGilvery or I don't. I wish
Well,
it would show me. I wish it would just show me who my pick was.
he's in the elimination round too, Matt McGillivray.
Oh, well, we'll see. What are you gonna do?
So let me see. Okay, yeah, Portugal. Italo was my number one pick. Gabe was my backup. Kanoa was my third, and then Felipe would have been my fourth, but he's out. So yeah, Italo would have been my pick. So
Well,
we'll see how that pans out.
it says here, and I'm sorry for the dead air. Idolo has the top spot in survival picks for this event,
Yeah,
34%.
that
Right
makes
behind him
sense.
is Gabe Medina, Griffin Colapinto, and then Kanoa and Jack Robinson.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Um,
Okay.
well, that leads us, I suppose, to the World Surfing Games,
Yeah.
which also an event that was not thrilling to watch, but to be honest, I think had a little bit more thrill because of Gabriel Medina's kind of rampage than previous years of this event.
Yeah.
Sally Fitzgibbons won on the women's side, Gabriel Medina won on the men's side. On through this event, there were 6 men's qualifiers: Ria Waida, Ramsey Bukayam, Joan Deroux, Tim Elter from Germany, Andy Cria from Spain, I believe is how you pronounce that, and then Alfonso Correa from Peru. On the women's side, Anat Laylor from Israel, Camelia Kemp from Germany, somebody's name from the Basque region that I won't even attempt to pronounce, Gonzalo Exabari from Spain, Nadia Estebari from Spain, Siggy Young from China, Sol Aguirre from Peru, and Tina Hinkle from Brazil, and then Yolanda Sequeira from Portugal. The Brazil team won on the men's side, so they get one extra spot that will likely go to Gabriel Medina, and they also won on the women's side, and that spot will likely go to Luana Silva. So Brazil back in the spotlight.
Well, I mean, the real story there, I guess, is Gabe, right? That was cool that the Brazilian team, both the men's and the women's, won their team event. So they got to pick an extra surfer, and it was Gabe. And I'm not sure which Brazilian got it for the Brazilian women.
Luana Silva.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, you just said that. Okay. So anyway, apparently it was really exciting. I mean, as far as the Gabe part of it, like,
Yeah.
it was building up to this moment where he had to do this and he had to do that and he did it all and he made everything happen. And, the Gabe that we know as a world champion, his competitive prowess came through and he pulled off what he needed to pull off. And so, it's so funny. I mean, much like Jordy, I'm a huge fan of Gabe Medina's and I'm a huge fan of Jordy Smith's. And, 7 or 8 years ago, I was, yeah, whatever. But
So when you're looking at an Olympic event at Chopu, it would
yeah,
be a shame to not have Gabriel Medina in it,
yeah,
for Brazil or just any full stop. So
yeah.
I'm thrilled that he did what he needed to do in Puerto Rico to make this happen. My question to you is there any scenario where you can envision Felipe Toledo withdrawing from the Olympics?
Absolutely. I mean, there's more, the odds are better that he actually surfs in it. I think that the Gabe story actually helps Felipe just kind of go into the background.
Yeah.
Like it's a benefit for Felipe. Like he could just like randomly, all of a sudden you just hear that, like Miguel Pupo's in there or something or whoever,
Well,
who is it? Is it Gabe, Felipe, and Elo, or is it Gabe, Felipe, and Sam, or Miguel? Or no, it's Yago, right?
yeah, no, Joao Chianca
Oh, that's
and
right. That's right.
Felipe
That's
Toledo via the WCT, the top
right.
two from the WCT. So those two guys.
And
But
Gabe.
but yeah, so Felipe, I mean, obviously he's got the year off from competitive surfing. If Chopu forecast is 10-foot crazy barrels, it would be, I mean, full validation of the scaredy cat thing that we've been talking about all along, but also no excuses at that point. Like if you took the year off from the CT, you're focused on the Olympics, there is no excuse for you to withdraw from the Olympics other than a legitimate injury, like a broken bone or something like that. Otherwise, you have to be prepared for that event. So if he does withdraw, it is just, I mean, it is clear as day that there is a major, major mental malfunction.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny. Like, basically, a week from today, it's 6 to 8 feet at Chopu. You know,
Mm.
and for the entire next week, a week from today, 5 to 7, 6 to 8, 6 to 8. You know, I, I, it wouldn't surprise me to see some edit drops from Felipe, or would it?
It would very much surprise me. I do
Well,
not see that.
I mean, he said that's what he was going to do, right? Didn't he say in his thing that he was going to dedicate time with one of the Hurley riders that's a local there? I forget which guy, maybe
Mata,
Mahate
Matahi
Drole.
Drole.
Yeah, Matahi Drole.
I don't know if I mentioned this to you on air, but I got a note from a friend after that story, and he was like, Matahi is not who you hire to be your coach for that event. He's like, you hire somebody older. You hire somebody who's going to put you in check, like who's going to who obviously Matahi is a very talented surfer at that spot, but
Yeah,
that's not the point. You hire
exactly.
somebody who is a professional coach who knows all the mental game that goes with it, who's surfed in tons of events, all that sort of stuff. The reason you would hire Matahi is if you want to be able to keep him in check, to be able to not have him fully tell you,
Engaged.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Like Matali's
Who
gonna,
would you who would you pick? Who's your short list of guys if you were in Felipe's camp and you're like, this is the guy that's going to get
CJ.
you?
I mean, CJ Hobgood comes to mind as one of the first
I was
ones.
thinking Luke. Excuse me. I think Luke would be good because, well, CJ would be great too, by the way. I think CJ's a great pick, but I think Luke. So it's obvious like the Charger goofy foots that have, have results out there that are these older guys. So is there anyone else? CJ and Luke, both perfect picks. Damien, frankly, could be good.
I mentioned CJ just because he's won a world title, but obviously he's performed out there specifically. Um,
But Luke's
Shane
in
Dor
the coaching game. So
Yeah, Shane
Dorian.
Shane Dorian's in the coaching game. CJ's
Yeah.
in the coaching game too. CJ's
Oh, good.
coached
Okay. Sorry, I
Carissa
didn't know.
Moore to world titles.
Oh, good. Okay.
Um, yeah. So any of the professional coaches. I mean, again,
Yeah.
Jake Patterson. I love Shane Dorian, by the way. I think he
Yeah.
is just such a well-rounded coach. I know he hasn't had the championship tour success. He was on the tour for a long time, but he didn't have all the successes that some of these other names have. But I still think he's super well qualified and unbelievably diverse in terms of like understanding a healthy lifestyle beyond just the competition, which might be what Felipe needs.
I was going to just ask you about that, because when we're trying to marry a coach with Felipe and you say Dorian and Shane, all of these guys would be probably great. I don't know, but Shane seems almost a little soft spoken, a little bit, maybe not. Like you mentioned Jake Patterson. I think Jake is the guy where you're like, Jake is like, he's going to shake it out of you or it's not going to happen. You know what I mean? I feel like Jake Patterson's going to be like, look, he's going to be in the channel with the bullhorn going, this one, you've got to go. Like during practice, just screaming at him, like, you know, to get him over the ledge. Whereas I sense that maybe Shane might be a little bit more like, oh, I guess he wasn't going to go on that one. It's not quite ready yet or whatever. You know what I mean? Like, it seems like Jake is just going to be more in your face. Let's go. It's now or never. Come on, man.
Yeah. Different personality types, different coaches for different athletes for sure. And I think you're right. Felipe needs somebody to break him. And Jake might be the right guy.
Yeah, that's what I was getting at. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah.
we'll see. Again, not
and
super close.
Matahi is obviously an incredibly talented surfer and very gifted at that spot. So that makes sense. But again, it's almost like Felipe hired him just knowing like I can play the trump card on this kid anytime I need to because I'm a multi-time world champ, you know, or something like that. So it's probably not the best.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
What about Adriano?
I think Adriano could be a phenomenal pick.
What about Guillermo Jordy? Guillermo Jordy.
Well, I don't know if those guys are coaching.
I don't either. And I don't know if it has to be a Brazilian.
Yeah, Leandro Dora, in terms of Brazilian coaches, Leandro Dora seems to be the guy with the best track record right now.
There's probably too much. I don't know. I don't speak with any authority on what happens politically behind the scenes, but it seems like he might be too close to other people on tour. But who knows?
Yeah. Well, we'll see what happens.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see. You know what? Greatest story ever is Felipe charges 8 to 10 foot chopu, pulls into massive barrels, gets spit out, and wins a gold medal. I think it would be poetic for him to put it in all of our faces, and I would be okay with it. I'd be the first one to raise my hand and go, you know what? Touche, dear champion, dear gold medalist. You deserve this. I'd be stoked, you know? Like I'm not caught up in any sort of ego play here to not be able to go, you know what? I was wrong. You have overcome. This is the greatest ESPN 30 for 30 ever.
I just want to see good surfing. So yeah, I totally would be fine with that if it was pumping surf and he earned it in that scenario.
See, there's more to this than good surfing. We're going to see good surfing. You can see good surfing right now. Just go on YouTube and pull up a clip of Mason Ho. What we want, David, and I believe you want this too, is we want a great story. The good surfing is going to be a part of it, but we want a great story arc with, you know the deal. Come on. We want more than just great surfing.
I'm saying if all of the other surfers that we already mentioned, John, they're all there and the waves are pumping and they're performing to their level and Felipe then trumps them, then yeah, that's what I want. That's incredible.
Yeah, that's a great story.
Yeah, I'm down for it.
All right. Look at us.
Well, speaking of great stories, Chloe Andino Stab in the Dark finally wraps up and it is official. My prediction from 5 weeks ago is accurate. Chloe Andino does not know what a blowout is.
I know, it's so funny. I was at the end of the segment, I'm sure like you, I was listening to exactly the conversation between him and his father, Dino Andino. And because they gave us that teaser in episode 1, and we were all kind of using it to like try to figure out what was going to happen, which board was going to be the winner, which shaper was going to win. And in that light, it was sort of a letdown. Like I thought it was going to be somebody out of left field, but it was DHD, right? Are we allowed to say that, by the way? Are we going to?
Spoiler alert. We're revealing who it is, but no, but it's going to be on social media. I mean, look, we're a news show. We're covering the news and this happened. So yes, it's fine.
Wow. Who knew? I didn't know we were a news show. This is great. So yeah, go ahead. Tell me what your thoughts are.
Well, okay. No, but no joke. Under no definition of the word blowout does
DHD when they said that, this is what I thought they meant. blowout as in like it's a tire blowout, like it's like the wind blew it out. Like it wasn't like blowout, like it was a score that was not to be perceived or not to be understood or not to be that we weren't going to think about. Because I was thinking about the term blowout. What do they mean by that? Right. And I thought when he goes, oh, it's a total blowout, as in it was totally lame.
No, so the analogy, if he meant to use it in the way that you're using it, it's a tire blowout. The appropriate analogy would have been Hayden Shapes one, not DHD. DHD is right there in the top 3 to 5 shortboard shapers in every conversation about who are the best in the world. So it's not a blowout by the definition of DHD's won 5 of these in a row. That's not true. So it's not a blowout in the terms of the tire blew out and it's completely out of left field. And this is totally different than anything we expected. It doesn't make any sense. He doesn't know what a blowout is. That's my point.
Okay. I think you're right. I think
I'm sticking with it.
To like excavate if he knows the exact definition of blowout. We agree. You know what? There's some work to be done there.
Kaloe, unless this was all a red herring on Kaloe's point from episode 1, he's like, I'm going to throw everybody off and give them this little thing that has nothing to do with anything at all.
Yeah, he got us. That son of a gun. He got us. Well,
bastards, never watching again.
Here's my take on the final episode, which was great again. And David and I have said that this was the best episode of iteration.
I said episode 2 was the best, and then episode 3 I thought was the best, even better than episode 2.
No, but I mean the whole iteration, like the Kalohe version of Stab in the Dark. This is
the best version of Stab in the Dark ever, the best installment.
Yeah. So I want to ask you a question because this is how I felt.
Okay.
If I watched all of Kalohe's surfing on all of the final 4 boards, and I didn't know that they were different boards, and you told me that they were actually all the same board, I could absolutely believe that. They all looked incredible. His surfing looked incredible. And I think that's why after surf breakdowns are super important, because only the surfer really knows how they felt. Only Kalohe really has the super sensitivity, because he would talk about one of the boards and go, oh, it was too loose, or this one wasn't loose enough. And I'd be like, really? I didn't see that. You were absolutely ripping on all 4 of those boards. So what would perhaps maybe be a neat format change for the finals only is to have the surfer, in this case Kalohe, watch the video afterwards and explain at certain points during the ride what it was he was feeling. Say at the top of a top turn, or through the roundhouse cutback, or at the critical junction of a bottom turn. Is this where you had that feeling about that? Because just if you can stop the motion of the video and give us a breakdown right then and go, see right here, I was feeling that moment where I thought the board was too loose. Yeah. We can all see it and go, oh, because he's such a good surfer and the boards are such good boards that there was a sort of a generic feeling to it all.
Yeah, anything short of that kind of NFL style playback with the marker on the screen, they're doing a great job of, like, because he is explaining on the beach and they are replaying footage, and obviously he's not watching it as he's explaining it, so they could take it a step further by doing what you're doing, but the editors do a good job of attempting to showcase what he's talking about. But I agree with you. I thought you were going to ask me the question of which board looked the best, and my response was going to be what yours ended up being, was no, they all looked great to me. Like, I couldn't tease apart which one actually looked better among these 4.
And to highlight your note there, I actually, as they went through and wrote each board, for instance, after the Boris, I wrote, oh, that looked a little sticky. From what I was watching, it looked a little sticky. And then Kalohe goes, actually, that was too loose. I was like, really? I thought it was like, so that's a great example of that, right?
Interesting. Yeah. Well, this episode was much more of a surf video than previous episodes. It's 45 minutes long and it has much more surfing. Fewer kind of detours into the shapers themselves, which is, of course, because we already covered the shapers in the previous episodes. They redeemed themselves, I felt, with the unlucky number 13 concept. We had explained in previous years and also in this version that the unlucky number 13 board just seems stupid. He's going to ride 12 boards in the contest. They order 13 boards from 13 shapers, and Kaloe has to pick one board to dismiss from the project before even waxing it and surfing it. And this year it was Xanadu's contribution. We're just like, that just seems like a waste of time. Well, the way that they redeemed themselves in this episode, which is an improvement on last year, is devote a segment within the episode, a 5-minute segment within the episode, to doing a deep dive into who Xanadu is, his whole profile, background, little mini documentary on Xanadu, and get a surfer to ride the board. The surfer in this case was Crosby Colapinto, and they did the board justice and they did Xanadu justice, and they kind of described, or they explained and discussed Kalohe and Crosby. Why did you dismiss this? And here's the virtues of it. I think it serves a purpose. And I just thought it was a great service to Xanadu, considering the
Well,
disservice.
I totally agree with you. In fact, I have in my notes here that I think Xanadu won the episode.
Yeah, I
Like they
agree.
did this great, like little backstory, little, history of Xanadu, where he comes from and all of that. Then Crosby absolutely ripped. The board looked insanely good. I
Yeah,
loved it. I look, like I was like, that board looks insane.
I
And
thought the board
Crosby
looked
basically
sick.
said, yeah, I like this board a lot. And you could tell.
Yeah.
And so in many ways, I think Xanadu is the winner.
Xanadu got enough play out of this from a marketing thing to certainly justify his involvement. And what I loved about it in particular, the reason why Kaloe dismissed it was because it was so different than all the other boards. And that's exactly what I loved about it. Crosby Colapinto also has a very refined, predictable style of surfing, much like Kaloe Andino. And the boards that he rides are, within, I don't know, a few molecules of difference from one another, probably. And so his surfing is very, super, super, super refined and incredible, but predictable. Putting him on a board like this, it shook up his surfing. It dirtied up his surfing. He would take turns and go really hard, but then it would, like, the board wouldn't kind of, complete the arc that he was going for. So he'd cut it short, then go into an earlier bottom turn and do something different. It was just requiring him to surf differently, which I loved as the viewer.
Yeah, Crosby's a little taller, a little ganglier, right, than Kalohe. He seems like a
Yeah.
bigger kid. He's got that look that, like, when he's 42, he's going to be weighing 260 pounds. You know what I mean? He's just got a big frame. And because he's so young, he's still a little skinny and gangly and stuff. But yeah, I loved watching that part of the episode. I thought it was great. And kudos to Crosby and to Stab and to Xanadu. I thought to myself, wow, I wonder why they didn't just get Xanadu to say something. And then I realized, if you put Xanadu on film, man, it could be a while. You know what I mean? Like it could be a whole nother episode.
Yeah, exactly. So congrats to all. Great job with the editors to include that. And like I said, kind of redeem the whole thing, the whole kind of what we felt was a bad idea for the unlucky number 13. Um,
Here's the thought.
yeah.
Unlucky number 13. Take all the unlucky number 13 boards and have somebody like Crosby in good fun surf, like they're at Periscopes or somewhere, ride them all. There's got to
Yeah.
be 5 or 6 or 7 or 8 of them. I don't know how many Stab in the Darks there's been. There's been probably quite a few.
Yeah.
Now I know, unfortunately, which one's which. Like, the EPS ELO board, because they're not the same color. Maybe somehow you get them all together, sand them down, repaint them, and have all the unlucky number 13s have their own
Yeah.
episode.
This episode obviously had the 4 finalists. The way that they ranked, or Chloe ranked them, was Chris Borst finished 4th, Pukas finished 3rd, Timmy Patterson finished 2nd, and then of course DHD finished 1st. Congrats to all. I mean, truly, like, Chris Borst deserves to be having his year. Well done, well earned. Obviously, Caitlin Simmers has kind of really elevated the spotlight on Chris Borst, but Chris does not ever ask for any limelight. I feel like he, in fact, deflects it. And so you don't see interviews with him or anything like that. But everybody who rides his boards, everybody in the know, in Northern Orange County or Northern San Diego mainly, raves and talks about just how talented he is. And so huge kudos to Chris Borst, deserved. And then Pukas as well. Like Pukas is continually in the finals of these things. Again, anybody who rides those boards, their factory in Spain is incredible, and they supply a ton of, they make a lot of surfboards and people love their boards. And so not enough good can be said about Pukas as well.
Axel Lorenz, I was on the phone last week with Bob McTavish, and he wants Axel Lorenz to be one of his shapers. So Axel's going to be coming out to the Boardroom Show in October to be one of the shapers, as he honors Bob McTavish in the shape off.
Axel's been there before too, right?
Yeah, he has, with the Ben Ipa.
That's right. So
Yeah.
what was Bob's reference to Axel? How does he know him?
Well, Bob, Bob's a world traveler. Bob knows the whole Puka story, and Bob knows who Axel is, and Bob knows Axel. And so, and of course, Axel was like, "Oh my gosh, yeah, I'd be so honored to. I can't wait to be out there."
Yeah, amazing. And everybody I know who's worked with Axel says like, raves about his talent. So
yeah,
amazing.
Sure. Yeah.
Well, congratulations, Stab.
Yeah.
Loved it.
And DHD, congratulations to DHD. I don't know if we've given him enough of his due, but I'm sure the episode will. And it's no surprise to anybody.
No.
That, Darren Hanley is the winner.
Yep. Congrats. I have a little detour from our normal show, but I got a listener sent me an email that he wanted us to read on the podcast. He's a longtime listener, longtime contributor, chimes in regularly with various things. It's a little bit of a long read, but it's worth it. Do you need a bathroom break before we go into it?
I don't need a bathroom break, but I do need to go get a glass of water. Hold on.
Okay, go for it, and we will be back.
Yeah, guy.
You want to pop the top on that? Oh, you already did. Okay. It's waiting for the audio interruption.
All right. Know what I did?
No.
I did something that makes me truly old. I bought handkerchiefs. I bought a dozen handkerchiefs on, and it was like I was the most stoked guy when I bought a dozen handkerchiefs. I now have handkerchiefs all around in all my pockets. It's great.
Is it
I've never owned handkerchiefs?
Isn't that a filthy habit?
I guess it is. I don't know. You just said it is. I've never thought of it like that. I thought of it more like, cool, I've got a handkerchief.
But what is the reason? Is your nose just constantly running?
Yeah, more or less.
Is it a seasonal thing?
It might be a little bit of hay fever. But I just, past abuse of my nasal passage means that there's constant flowage.
I hear you. Well, when I see old men doing that, I always just thought, man, you just got a rag of snot in your pocket at all times. Like,
it's better than wiping it on my sleeve, isn't it?
I guess, but disposable is the other option too.
I guess you're right, but that's what laundromats are for.
You do you. I will say
I was all proud of it, and now you just like kind of shut me down.
I'm just asking. I'm not trying to shame. I'm just asking. I do advocate for the linen napkin. Like if I go to your house and you serve me paper napkin, like we're having a nice dinner or something, or any dinner at all. You know what? Doesn't have to be nice. You could be eating
really any dinner. You don't use paper towels ever.
I mean, I do, but not for like if I'm having a dinner, I'm using a linen napkin. I do use paper towels in the house, but if I'm having a dinner,
what if I serve you up a burrito, set you down in my living room at the living room table, and we're watching whatever, and I give you a paper towel?
I'll throw it on the ground.
You're uninvited.
I will smash it with my foot after I
will say this, that Katrina would not allow that. She would be all about the linens, believe me.
Well, and look, I'm not trying to act like a fancy lad or anything, but why wouldn't you? You know what I mean? Like less waste. It's a more luxurious product. They're less expensive than paper towels, to be perfectly honest. You buy 12 linen napkins, they're going to last you for a very long time. Whereas you're replacing your towels all the time. That's not cheap. It's just a better way to go, is all I'm saying.
Hey, guess what? Punta Mango has a cam.
I know.
I didn't know that. I'm just not checking it out. It's not working right now.
Okay.
It's offline, but yeah.
All right.
Hell yeah.
Fantasizing about El Sal right now.
I figured it's the time. Go ahead. Yeah.
Well, so look, this listener sent this email with the header or the subject line that says "Love Letter to Dad." And I thought this would resonate with you, Scott. It says, "Hey, David, longtime fan and listener. I've reached out several times for advice, opinions on topics. I'm writing today with sad news. On Friday, the 23rd, my father suddenly passed away. As I was going through his things this weekend, I found a letter that I wrote to him as a high school project. He'd kept it all this time. It's basically a thank you letter to him for getting me into surfing. If you have the time and the interest, I'd love for you to read it on your show. It's a bit long, so I completely understand if you're not able to, but if I'm able to direct my family to listen to the show, that would be amazing. We all have our influences and role models and those who originally got us into this sport that we love so much. And I think it's a great reminder to remind those that did and thank them. Yeah, guy! Exclamation point. So this is the letter. Go ahead. Did you want to say something?
No, go ahead.
This is the letter that he wrote to his father in high school that he found in his father's things after he passed. It's marked with the timestamp of 5:30 a.m. Do you still want to go? I'm not sure you realize how many times that question has played in my head over the years and how much I think of what my life would have been if the answer was no. The truth is, I really didn't want to go. Watching Mad TV and playing Super Nintendo all night had me exhausted, but I didn't want to disappoint you. The smell of chorizo burritos informed me that you'd been up for a while getting ready, so there was no turning back now. I'll never forget the artificial street lights shining into the room, no sunlight yet. I was confused whether it was day or night. You had me go into the garage and fetch the boards to put in the back of the truck. Seems like an easy job until I stepped outside barefoot into what felt like sub-zero weather. I'll never forget the smell of dawn that early in the morning, the fresh, dewy smell of the backyard as I made my way deeper into the garage. And I remember the feel of dusty wax on the boards, caked in black from sitting there for years untouched. The boards we'd used that day were broken, trashed, yellowed, missing fins, and useless by any standard, but they were perfect. Then I pulled out your miraculous blue bark surfboards Rhino Chaser in perfect condition with green fins. I threw them all in the back of the truck without a care of knocking them into one another or further damage that I was going to be doing to them. Straight to the donut shop we went for your morning coffee and my morning hot chocolate and donuts. This is where the adventure really started. I never knew how fun it could be to lay in the back of that Toyota with the boards. Laying on the carpet under the boards, it was my own little world, replaying the opening scene of Big Wednesday in my head to get ready for the surf. Up until that point, Ernie and I fought all the time for that front seat, but thank God you made the verdict that he was older and could have it. Laying under my surfboard fort, the smell of old wax and resin went perfectly with my hot chocolate and sprinkled donut. I'll never forget that. The Skid Row tape that we listened to on the way to the beach at the highest volume possible. We blasted 18 in Life and Youth Gone Wild on repeat until we were at the beach. There's not a time I listened to either of those songs without thinking of this morning. We all got to the liquor store on the corner of PCH and Seal Beach Boulevard. As we stepped out of the truck, the smell of fish from the bait and tackle shop next door hit us. It's a smell that takes me back to this day. The fog was just beginning to rise. The Navy ship in between Seal and Sunset was just coming into view. The liquor store had always had a huge box full of sex wax. I still remember grabbing one as fast as I could, the smell of it, putting it on the board and making the smell even more potent in the back of the truck. I effing love that smell. We got to the beach in no time. And before I knew it, we were standing in the jetty parking lot. The restaurant that stands there today was an old fish market. The bathrooms were weren't renovated, and there was a peaceful quiet in the air. The fog came back down, making it impossible to see more than 20 feet from the beach. Didn't seem to matter as we headed out along the rocks towards the ocean. No wetsuit, no booties, just swim trunks and our boards. I didn't mention that I couldn't feel my feet anymore on the freezing cold sand. The board was too wide for my arms, so I put it over my head and threw a towel over my shoulder as you led us down the beach with your board under your arm and towel drooped over your board. I'd never felt so cool. The nervousness grew as we got closer to the water, and I could imagine how cold it was going to be. You turned back and noticed my shivering. The water is warmer than the air. It'll be fine. The tide was low, the wet sand was wide, and the waves were small. Nothing intimidating and nothing to be afraid of, but the realization set in that I was actually going to do this. Terrified and cold, I walked out to the 1 foot waves and did everything I could to get a wave. I couldn't balance myself on the board to paddle more than 5 feet. I lost interest really fast, actually. So I got out and played on the beach. There were about 6 people on the beach getting ready to paddle out. Only they were going into the quote real jetty. We were surfing inside crabs. I remember thinking to myself that they were crazy for waking up this early, coming down to the freezing beach and paddling out in the dense fog without knowing what was out there. After watching on the beach for about 15 minutes, I saw Ernie catch 2 whitewater waves with you, hooting from deeper water. This didn't sit well with me. I grabbed my board and ran back into the water. This time I got closer to you and you helped me out. A bigger set wave came, well, for me at the time, and knocked me over. This happened another 4 times. I was audibly pissed at this point and I was ready to give up again. I made my way to you. You grabbed my board and said, I need to practice my duck dives. Only you said it with the Australian accent from the North Shore, trying to make me laugh. But I wasn't amused. Another wave came. You pushed me into it at just the right time. I felt the push of water and was shocked by its immediate power. I made my way to one knee, then the other, then to my feet, and caught it all the way to the beach. I'll never be able to accurately put into words that feeling, but it was the most exciting feeling that I had to this point in my life. I only got that single wave that day, but it was enough to send me running and jumping to the beach with unmatched exhilaration. We got out and rinsed off in the longboarders area where there was a hose and a wooden stand for the boards. The Dawn Patrol guys were rinsing off and talking about their waves. Did you get any today? One asked. Yeah, I got to my feet and rode it all the way in. I'll never forget your grin of happiness and pride when I looked back at you. I can't tell you what we did when we got home or what we had for dinner or even what uh, month or season it was, but I'll remember every second of getting dressed in the parking lot, packing our bags back up, and the ride home. The entire day was eclipsed by those moments. Skid Row, the smell of wax, and the feeling of being a surfer for the first time. You may not know it, but that was the day. But that day has stayed with me the rest of my life and is one of the best memories I have. I love you and I miss you. Thank you, Dad.
All right. That was sweet. That's very nice. Now, sadly, the father's gone. Is that?
Father passed away on Friday, the 23rd of February. So 2 weeks ago.
Well, that's cool, man. That was really sweet. And, you know, that's, I don't know what to say. It was just really sweet and kind and spirited and, a lot of smells, a lot of smells going on, a lot of Skid Row, you know,
Well,
and,
do you remember how you were introduced? I mean, do you remember your first surfing experience and do you remember how you were introduced to it?
yeah, my first surfing experience, the very first time, um, well, it's one of those things where like I started on a boogie board. So it's like, there was a year of just riding a boogie board. So was it my first wave that I rode? My first wave that I stood up on was at the Del Mar River mouth. I do remember that. I do remember that the very first time I went down to the beach with a surfboard under my arm was at the Del Mar River mouth with a guy named Roy Redman and another guy. I think it might have been Matt Vizzolini. Anyway, I remember standing up and going, yeah, hell yeah. We're surfers now.
You remember your first wave?
Yeah. Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah.
How old were you?
I was probably 13.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting. So we were about the same age then. I think I was about 12, but same exact experience, like going to the beach all the time with a boogie board. And then at some point you just end up with a surfboard, of course, because that's what everybody else is that
Yeah.
just seems like the natural progression, you know?
Yeah.
But I don't remember my first wave. I remember feeling hooked by it just by bodyboarding. Like, so the difference between bodyboarding and surfing doesn't stand out to me hugely,
Yeah.
but the memories of bodyboarding, um, and I mean, I remember specific waves, like I'd try to get a whitewash and then that was going faster than a whitewash in front of it. There'd be like a smaller whitewash and you want to like go down it like a little waterfall sensation. I remember
Yeah.
specific waves of looking for those and doing that thing.
Mm.
But I don't remember necessarily my first waves surf.
Well, look, this guy's letter is more about his relationship with his father than his, I don't know. It's just great. It's
I
great.
appreciate it. Yeah.
Yeah,
Thank you, Nathan, for sending that in.
absolutely.
He emailed this to us 7 days ago, right after we had recorded our last episode. And then I saw it on Beach Grit as well. So I guess they ran it in homage to Nathan's father as well. So sorry for your loss, Nathan, but I think your missive to remember those who introduced us to surfing is also a great sentiment to leave with people. So
Yeah, exactly. Who introduced you to surfing? So just chew on that for a little bit. I'm sure there might have been more than one person. So yeah.
yeah. All right. Well, thank you, Nathan. We do must-see moments presented by Trees Wax, and
Yeah.
the obvious one this week would, of course, be Stab in the Dark's finale. I'm going to presume that most people have seen that, but I stumbled across something on Instagram that blew my mind. And it's something that you and I both have seen, but it was years ago.
Yeah.
It was an older post, and it was Cam Richards' wave at Pipeline on the board that his dad had shaped, the gun had shaped like 3 or 4 years ago. You remember
Yeah,
that?
I do. And is this in relation to Drew Brophy's post too? Because
Yeah,
didn't
that's
Drew?
exactly. So Drew
Yeah.
Brophy posted that, and then I clicked over because he tagged Kelly Richards in the post, which is Cam's father. And I
Yeah.
was like, you know what? I don't follow Kelly Richards. I follow his surf shop, Village Surf Shop, but I didn't know that Kelly was actually on Instagram. So I clicked over onto Kelly's post. Turns out Kelly hasn't posted anything for a couple of years. So one of his most recent posts was that wave from Pipeline with Cam riding that board. And so I rewatched it.
Yeah.
I mean, it is the best wave of the last decade at Pipeline, possibly. Like, it is crazy. I have not seen a better wave at Pipeline since then. There's like 4 sections on that thing, and Cam just locks in and goes and makes every one of them. It's insane.
That's so cool. And made by his father,
Yeah,
you
the
know.
board was made by his dad.
And so how many of those scenarios are out there? I know that the Geiselman's father is a really good shaper. I'm sure he's made them boards that they've ridden at Pipeline, I'm guessing. But how many people have surfboards made by their dad? Probably quite a few, but
Harry Bryant. I mean, not Harry Bryant. Noah Dean is who I meant to say. Noah Dean, Wayne
oh
Dean,
yeah. Yeah, Wayne Dean. And of course Jerry Lopez, Alex Lopez. I'm sure there's quite a few shapers.
Nick Nick Timponi, who's going to be with us in El Salvador. His dad, obviously, Jeff Timponi, builds all
Oh,
of his
cool.
boards,
Well,
shapes all
that's
of his
so
boards.
great. Nick's gonna be there. I'm stoked to know that. That is so cool.
Yeah, Nick's
And
coming.
then I was thinking, who are the guys here? Whitlocks. The Whitlocks here in Oceanside, their dad's a shaper, Corey and his brother.
Yeah.
I mean, there's probably quite a few, right?
Oh yeah,
Sure,
there's
Herbie Fletcher, and there's so many, but
tons for sure.
yeah.
But still, a cool story, and it dovetails beautifully with Nathan's love letter to his father too.
I was thinking about Jordy Smith. By the way, that's my must see moment is that you watch his first round heat from today to get a sense of how snappy and fresh and sprightly and he looks good on his board, Jordy.
And riding his dad's boards too.
Exactly. Wow. Boom. You fully nailed it right there. That's insane. How many
I
people
thought
have
that
won a CT on their father's board?
that's a great
That's
question.
that's probably the only one.
Well, I don't think he's
But
won a CT on his father's boards yet, but
well, it's gonna
hopefully he
happen.
will.
It's gonna
Yeah.
happen like this week, next week. But I was thinking Jordy's getting so old that he's gonna be at that place where he's like, hey, I'm gonna take off this event because I'm going to Little League. I'm coaching my son in Little League. His son's gonna be like 12 years old.
And he should. He should. That'd be a great prioritizing of
Yeah.
his life. So yeah, well, we should have saved this show for June for Father's Day, man.
I was thinking that too. I was like, this sounds like a Father's Day show.
It is.
All right. Well, look, until next time, David, adios and aloha.
All right, man.